who is living and who is staying in Turkey. Today we're going to talk about that. Also, we're going to talk about a lot of news which happening, things which are in Turkey, around Turkey, and about Turkey. I'm Bas, welcome to my channel. Remember, you can subscribe, leave some comments, leave some likes. And first of all, there are plenty of people who are saying Turkey is bad, Turkey is over, it's time to get out of there, and those are the bloggers which you see. The thing which you really need to pay attention, who are those bloggers? In many cases, those are the people who came and who's making a little bit of money here and there and everywhere. There are some other ones which actually live in Turkey and they more or less subjectively describe the picture which they see. Nevertheless, there are also people who make money abroad, or perhaps they have business abroad, and perhaps they have saved money. Those are the people who still stay in. Turkey is there, Turkey has been there, and Turkey will be there no matter what other people say. There were a lot of people who are fly-by-night throughout the last 2 years. They came, they gone, many of them went to different countries. It's not like I'm really judging those people. It's a good idea sometimes to travel, sometimes to live abroad, and sometimes to live in different countries. You know, there are quite a few people from Turkey go other countries, and there are people who come to Turkey. But when you have a huge influx of people, as Turkey did in past few years, those are the people who perhaps did not come to Turkey for Turkey. They just came to check it out and go. There are also refugees which Turkey accepted, and many of them staying too. And as this economic situation is becoming more tense, people start looking for somebody who is responsible for that. It's not always fair, it's not always logical, it's just they need to have an outlet, because people who came and they were living off real estate. Remember, I had quite a few clips, and it's been a long time ago, when I said when you're buying real estate in Turkey, often you have 4, 5, 6 people who get in commission from that sales. And those are the people who actually right now live in Turkey. Those 5, 6, 7 people who were in line to get their commission, they are pretty much gone. For that reason, that's one of the reasons why real estate prices are not as high anymore. And of course, another reason is that the market is not hot. Nevertheless, things are still going. Apartments, flats, properties still sold and bought. But unfortunately, economic situation is getting worse, and we know that there are bankruptcies on the rise. There are also closing of the business, like business are actually going out of business. It's 40% higher this year versus last year. And you also see hotels and owners of small businesses which complain about tourists or absence of such, or even if there are tourists, they don't want to spend money. That's the fact of life. Particularly, I can tell you one story which is important, something to know, and it is a descriptive of what's going on right now in Alanya. Small cities, smaller cities, which live only off tourists, they are suffering bad. Small businesses are not making money, and that means that the tax office is not receiving share of the revenues, because revenues were not even generated. So from what I've heard, that mayor of Alanya right now is considering to issue license to a strip club. And that is something which is descriptive of the situation. Usually when situation is becoming really worse, people start looking for easy and quick money. Strip clubs, casinos, bars, restaurants. But bars, restaurants are no longer in vogue. Bars and restaurants, they are not receiving their fair share of customers. People just not spending money because prices are so high. But that is the indication of really local businesses and also local administration suffering, because they just don't have budget. They're looking for any ability, any way to generate some kind of cash. Those are the things. Then there are people who actually I talk to, and they saying, look, there's really nothing that has changed for us. We have retirement money, we have savings, and for us, yeah, the prices became higher, but we did not really go out at night to eat at the same shish kebab restaurant anyway. And for what we came to Turkey, and that's mountains and the sea and the walk along the sea, It is still here, it will be here, and there is really nothing that changes. Yeah, for the summer we go elsewhere, for the winter perhaps we also travel, but in general for us nothing has changed. Among other news is that Europe is becoming more interested in Turkey. For instance, every 6 months in Europe, finance ministers get together to talk about something. And for 6 years, Turkey was not invited for that. All of a sudden, finance minister of Turkey is invited to one of these meetings. The curious thing is why. Of course, the article doesn't say why, or the news don't say why, but let's think about it. Turkey recently is really turning to the east, as many other countries. Many other countries started turning to the east because there is now an opportunity to trade, such as BRICS. Azerbaijan is trying to join BRICS. Many other countries trying to join BRICS. Turkey is joining BRICS, and that really worries Europe because people are changing the direction. Before, in past few years, Europe was the ultimate goal of many people who wanted to go there, but things have changed. European situation is not really good, economic situation is not that great, plus tension, plus refugees, etc. So people turning east because they still have to live, they still have to trade. News which came to my attention and I connect them together. That is that Turkey is opening its borders to visa-free travel to certain groups of Iraqi citizens. And that is also signifying to me as a turning east. People will be coming to Turkey from Iraq. That also probably influencing this situation. And now Europe is thinking, well, we have to somehow hold Turkey in our area of interest. And the problem is that Turkey was in their area of interest for over 30 years as a candidate for membership to EU, and many other countries which came later and became members of EU, and Turkey is still on the border. So it feels like European Union is just trying to keep attention, they're trying to keep interest, but they're not really trying to make a genuine effort to either integrate or say, hey, we don't want to integrate. So that is kind of situation. There were 700 cases in Turkey where tax office was looking at people renting apartment to other people, and some of them did not register, so the tax office had to write penalties. People making money, they're not paying taxes, and I think the new minister of finance, he's really making an effort to collect taxes, which is important because if we collect more taxes, I guess we can somewhat influence the inflation. Unfortunately, inflation is still out of hand, and you can see that lira is slowly getting devalued. The other news which came to my attention that people are eating a lot less meat in Turkey. It's becoming quite a luxury food. And as you know, if you're in Turkey, fish is about twice less expensive than meat. So if you are in mood for fish, it's probably a good idea to eat it in Turkey. Otherwise, meat is becoming a luxury, and if you're in other countries, you can compare, which I did quite a bit while I was traveling this summer. I actually saw that you can get a lot of meat in Eastern European countries, and it's quite affordable. Turkey is starting to regulate car sales. As about a year ago, Turkey started regulating the apartments, flat sales, where on the internet marketplaces you had to be either owner or a rightful representative of the property owner. The same thing now is applying to cars. The cars from now on have to be sold in the same fashion, and the marketplace has to check the validity of that particular claim, of that particular sales, the ownership. That will be their responsibility. It is done, from the words of the authorities, it is done to protect the people when they're buying and selling, which is perfectly valid. It's probably true. On the other hand, I think the market is becoming quite bigger, and also because of the economic hardship, people are doing some shady things. Maybe not willingly, maybe under pressure, economic pressure, but they're doing those things. That is probably also a manifestation of difficult times. Speaking of the inflation, that is something which we all are interested in. People asking me, what do you think, what's going to happen to Turkish lira at the end of the year, maybe next year? I have a few different forecasts. One of the banks, German banks, decided that Turkish lira should be at about 35 by the end of the year. That is their forecast, their prediction. Also, there are some other forecasts, some of them saying that Turkish lira is going to be around 37 and a half by December 2024, and other people saying that in 2025 Turkish lira will be around 42, probably in the first half of that year, which probably is fairly correct, but we will all see. With the high interest rates which people are receiving for their savings, inflation is still in play, and inflation is still hurting a lot of people. And the last news which I wanted to share with you, which I think also is important. Turkey has raised duties for customs, and larger companies are saying that they're not going to sell cars anymore. For instance, Nike made a claim that they're not going to sell some of the goods, and also Volvo recently made a claim that they're not going to be selling the cars in Turkey which were assembled in China. And I'm kind of curious about that, because the brand name Volvo is still strongly associated with Sweden, and they're actually assembled now in China, and they are Chinese assembly is sold elsewhere. The quality is probably good, but the labor prices in China is definitely not the same as in Europe. So the company is making a lot of money, and I think that's one of the reasons Turkey decided to put this kind of wall, because there are lots of Asian imports coming to Turkey under the name of European brands. And so the companies are making money, and that money is actually taxed elsewhere, not in Turkey in many cases. And Turkey is actually hurting. Turkey actually producing its own textile goods, clothes, and it also has some of the cars. And besides that, Chinese brands, I can tell you one thing, which is very, very surprising to me. I've been to Belarus and I've been to Russia. There are lots of Chinese cars. Those Chinese cars looking good. I also had chance to talk to some of the taxi drivers in different places. I was taking quite a few taxi rides because they're so inexpensive. Compared to Turkey, they're dirt cheap. The taxi drivers who drive a lot and they have a lot of experience driving, they told me one thing is that Chinese brands are not bad at all. They are actually quite comparable in comfort, they're quite comparable in performance, and they are probably half price of European brands. So with the all sorts of barriers for Europeans goods to enter Eastern Europe, Chinese are actually taking over the market, and they're doing a superb job, becoming quite popular, because in many cases people just say, hey, why would I want to pay 2 or 3 times as much when I get pretty much the same quality as the same goods, because they're produced from the same assembly parts, and sometimes probably even from same assembly plants, and they're sold on a Chinese brand. So why would I pay 2 or 3 times for the same thing when I can buy cheaper? I'm Vas, welcome to my channel. Remember, subscribe, leave some comments, leave some likes, and I will see you soon. Good luck.